In many indigenous cultures, particularly in West Africa, there's a fascinating spiritual concept known as the bush soul. The bush soul is believed to be a secondary soul, connected to nature and often taking the form of an animal that exists in the wilderness. It's a mysterious and powerful presence, guiding individuals on their spiritual journeys. But what if this idea holds more meaning for our understanding of consciousness? Carl Jung, the renowned psychologist, spent much of his life studying symbols and myths from various cultures. He believed these symbols were not just random cultural artifacts, but rather, they held universal significance, that they were expressions of the unconscious mind. Today, I want to explore the idea of the bush soul through the lens of Jung's psychology and see how it might reveal deeper truths about the nature of consciousness and the unconscious. So what exactly is a bush soul? In African traditions, it's believed that each person has not just one, but two souls. The bush soul is the one tied to nature. It's often represented as an animal that mirrors the person's spirit and destiny. This soul is deeply connected to the wilderness, to the primal forces of life, and if something happens to it, the person it's linked to can experience distress or even illness. For Carl Jung, this idea of the bush soul resonates with his concept of archetypes and the collective unconscious. Jung believed that all humans share a collective pool of symbols, ideas, and images that appear in myths, dreams, and spiritual traditions across the world. These archetypes, as Jung called them, are universal psychological patterns, deep forces that shape our consciousness and behavior. Jung would likely see the bush soul as an archetype, a symbol that represents our deep connection to nature and our instinctual, unconscious drives. Just like in the African tradition, where the bush soul is an animal, Jung often associated animals with the instincts, the primal forces that come from the unconscious part of our consciousness. Jung believed that animals in dreams or myths represent parts of ourselves that we might not be fully aware of. In a sense, the bush soul could represent the shadow, in Jungian terms, the parts of our consciousness that are hidden but still influence our thoughts and actions. But what might this look like in everyday life? Imagine, for example, that you often find yourself reacting with anger or defensiveness in certain situations. Maybe it happens when you feel challenged or criticized. That reaction could be an instinctual part of your psyche, a protective response rooted in deeper fears of vulnerability or rejection. In Jungian terms, this could represent a part of your shadow, an unconscious pattern driving your behavior. Now, if we think of this reaction as part of your bush soul, it might be symbolized by an animal, say, a tiger, a creature of strength and aggression. The tiger, as your bush soul, could represent your instinctual drive to protect yourself. But when this instinct isn't consciously understood or integrated into your conscious awareness, it might show up in unhealthy ways, like excessive anger or defensiveness. In Jung's psychology, the goal of life is individuation, becoming whole by integrating all the different aspects of the self, including the shadow or primal instincts. In this way, the bush soul isn't something to be feared or ignored. Instead, it's something to be integrated into your consciousness, a symbol of the natural, instinctual part of us that needs to be honored if we are to be balanced and whole. When we learn to connect with this side of ourselves, the bush soul, or in Jungian terms, our instinctual unconscious, we gain a greater sense of balance, insight, and harmony with the world around us. It's not just about connecting with nature outside of us, but also recognizing that nature and its wisdom live within our consciousness. Today, we might not speak of the bush soul as the ancients did, but the concept remains relevant. In our fast-paced world, where we're often disconnected from the rhythms of nature and our deeper selves, the bush soul reminds us of our instinctual consciousness, the side that longs for connection with the earth, with animals, and with the deeper parts of our own mind. So, the next time you feel a pull toward nature, or even when you dream of animals, consider this: perhaps your bush soul is calling. Perhaps, like Jung believed, these symbols are speaking from the unconscious, inviting you to integrate the wild, instinctual, and natural parts of your consciousness into your daily life. The bush soul, an ancient symbol, a universal archetype, and a reminder that we are never far from the primal forces of nature, within or around us. Embracing it may just lead to a deeper connection with ourselves and the vast landscape of consciousness we live in. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful and want to learn more about the nature of consciousness and spiritual growth, remember to like, share and subscribe.